Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Thursday, October 28th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories read here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. So here are some of the news stories from the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Last month in New York City, Michael Gray, owner of G+G Advertising, located in Billings, Montana, received the 2010 Diversity Achievement Role Model of the Year Award. The award ceremony took place at the New York Athletic Club and featured individuals and corporations that demonstrated the ability to openly promote diversity in advertising, marketing techniques, business practices, and those who developed successful diversity initiatives. Award recipients for 2010 advertising campaigns included corporations like McDonald's, State Farm Insurance, American Airlines, General Mills, J.C. Penney, and the City of Miami. G+G, based in Billings, Montana, works with many clients on a local, regional, and national level. On Saturday, October 30th, 2010, Nipmuc Indians will observe the anniversary of the forced removal of their ancestors from the historic Natick praying Indian town and internment on Deer Island in Boston Harbor on October 1675. New England Indians and supporters will travel the historic path of the forced removal as a 12-mile sacred run and 20-mile sacred paddle along the Charles River and through the Boston Harbor to Deer Island. About 500 indigenous people, mostly Nipmuc women, children, and elders, were imprisoned on Deer Island after the outbreak of King Philip's War in 1675. Without food, shelter, clothing, or medicine, more than half of them perished. The Sacred Run and Paddle are part of a series of events planned to commemorate the October 30th anniversary of the Nipmuc internment at Deer Island. The Sacred Run begins at 5 a.m. on South Natick and ends at the boat ramp on Nonatum Road in Brighton. At 8 a.m., the Sacred Paddle will begin at the boat ramp and will end at Deer Island at 1 p.m., followed by a memorial ceremony at MWRA at 100 Taft Avenue in Winthrop, Massachusetts. For additional information concerning the memorial events, you can call Mary Ann Hendricks at 617-328-4899. On Wednesday, November 3rd, the Lacuta James Pipe Mustache Auditorium will be the location of the LCO Environmental Film Festival beginning at 12 noon with a potluck. Bring your own plate and utensils with invited guest speaker Teresa Steppes regarding the Springbrook Organic Dairy. At 12:30, the film Power of Community about how Cuba survived peak oil when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1990. Cuba's economy went into a tailspin. With imports of oil cut by more than half and food imports by 80%, people were desperate. And you want to find out about how they survived that. This fascinating and empowering film shows how communities can pull together, create solutions, and ultimately thrive in spite of their decreased dependence on imported energy. That's going to be Advocacy to Action Y sometime early afternoon. And today we go to Marley Shebala, Navajo Times reporter, down on the Navajo Nation for an update both on the indictments of now 70 members of the 88-member council there in Window Rock, Arizona, and a little bit of a tidbit on the upcoming election on November 2nd, when we're going to touch base with her as well then.
Marley Shebala, can you give us an update on what's happening in Navajo country this weekend here? It's always interesting to check in. Give us an update.
Yeah, well, I'm actually coming to you from a Navajo Nation Council Ethic and Rule Committee hearing on one of the chapter officials that has allegations against her. And so if you have any of the background noise, I'm using one of the offices to report from. But the Navajo Times, I was able to get a list of the Navajo Nation Council delegates who have been indicted by Navajo Nation Special Prosecutor Alan Ballerin. And there are 88 council delegates, and of the 88 council delegates, 77 have been charged with various criminal complaints involving theft, forgery, fraud, and abuse of office. not all 77 are facing for those charges. Some are facing theft, and some are facing maybe 3 or 2 charges. And the amounts involved concern discretionary funds, which citizens of the reservation are now referring to as the council delegate slush funds. But some of the amounts involve between $200,000 to $300.
What's surprising is that usually when someone's getting into a fund like this is discretionary funding. This was supposed to go out to tribal members. Was it? My understanding that part of the fraud charges is that council delegates benefited financially from this discretionary fund.
There are exhibits attached to the complaints, and they list the discretionary checks by number, by date, who the check was issued to, and who was the council delegate that was named from which the discretionary funds came. And the discretionary funds, you're right, they're emergency assistance for citizens who are very much in need, elders. You might have single parents who need to purchase winter coats or school supplies. I've actually seen some of these letters that some of the delegates had showed me. And so these are individuals that are supposed to be in need. And the exhibits show, though, that family members of council delegates received discretionary assistance. And I think one of the individuals who is probably most known in Indian country is former Chairman Peter McDonald. His daughter is a council delegate, Hope McDonald Lone Tree. And in one of the exhibits in the complaints against her, he received, I think, if I remember correctly, about over $6,000 in discretionary assistance. His wife received over $3,000 in discretionary assistance. And the complaint is alleging that McDonald Lone Tree conspired with other council delegates for her father and mother to receive discretionary assistance under their names, so that she did not directly give them assistance. But some other delegates, they have the checks show that they they directly assisted their family members. So it's a variety of charges.
It sounds like not only out of the charges of alleged fraud for people who sound to me, a lot of these people sound like they're making some money and now they're tapping into this fund, that there needs to be some reform around the whole nature of those discretionary funds. It sounds like this adds up to millions of dollars, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is millions of dollars. I haven't been able to total the amount that's involved with the 77 council delegates, but that's what I mean. The amounts are between $200,000 and $300. But it's a huge amount of money that is not open to public scrutiny. I have, for maybe 5 years, have asked the Navajo Nation Council and also the president and vice president, President Shirley, his former vice president, Daesh, his current vice president, Shelley, who is running for president, if they would tell me about, the discretionary funds. Who are they helping? How much are they giving? What kind of assistance, are they providing? Because they keep saying, well, we're helping our constituents. We're helping people that are in need. And I tell them, well, let me know. Tell me these stories. Let's you're doing something good for the community. So tell me what you're doing with that money. But we never got any kind of a response from them. And in fact, Vice President Shelley held a press conference yesterday, and I asked him about the charges that were made against him involving his discretionary funds. And he was Budget and Finance Committee chair at the time, and I asked him, it would seem that because you were Budget and Finance Committee chair, that you would have pushed for policies to protect the funds of the people on these discretionary funds, because he claimed, well, at the time there were no policies involved in this discretionary funds, so they were able to use them pretty much the way they wanted to. And it's true. And then I told him, I says, and then now you're running again saying, you want an accountable government, you trust me, but you've been a vice president for the past 4 years, and the discretionary funds for the president and vice president there are no policies regarding it. Over there in legislative, they have some policies at least.
Yeah.
And his response was, well, he didn't want to talk about it.
Well, it's a difficult time. I know this is on your mind because it's all breaking here in the last 2 weeks, and it's pretty interesting to keep track of it. I guess we're working up to this whole political level across the country, but how is this going to impact the elections? Is it, what's going to happen? What's your impression of how this is going to impact the elections? Do you see it as dispiriting voters, or do you think it'll mean that they'll get out and vote more? Is it going to make any difference at all? Is it just got to be played out?
Well, some of the initial feedback that we're receiving, that I've received so far, is that individuals are pretty dispirited. They don't want to go and vote. They don't feel that they have that trust in the candidates, and many of the candidates are on that list of 77 who have been indicted. So it's difficult. It's a difficult thing for the voters to look at.
And we want to remind people that even if there has been indictments or warrants, that these individuals are all assumed innocent until found guilty in trial or this thing plays out, that there may be some people who've been caught up, that there are some legitimate situations going on. We just want to keep that in mind.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, one of our reporters, Bill Donovan, wrote a special reporter's notebook, which it goes on the letters to the editor, reminding, the people that they are innocent until proven guilty. And the council delegates who have been arraigned have all pled not guilty, and that includes Vice President Shelley.
Okay. We've got an election coming up next Tuesday. Who's going to be watching that here in the next few days, and what do you find exciting outside of the Navajo Nation? What's going on that you find exciting?
Well, what's exciting right now is that there are so many activities involving how the Navajo Times and how other media outlets are going to be getting a blow-by-blow account of the election results. And so we're going to be trying as best we can to get this information out to the Navajo voters. Many of them can't get to the Winter Rock Sports Center to hear the election results. But a lot of people are, there may be some that are not happy about going to vote, but a lot of people are reminding them that this isn't the only election that's happening. There are also state elections that are going on. And you have many Native American candidates that are trying to get reelected to go back into the state and federal positions.
We want to check in with you on November 2nd for that, because there's some other races. For example, Senator Lisa Murkowski in Alaska is pretty much counting on her endorsement by the Alaska Federation of Natives earlier this week, late last week, to carry her through her write-in candidate against Joe Miller, the Tea Party candidate and the Democratic guy. So a lot of people across the country are looking to see what the Native vote is going to do there. I imagine that it may hold the balance and power in some of the elections down in Arizona and New Mexico. So we're going to have an update on that too. Tuesday night, catch up to you?
Oh, yeah. Tuesday night, yeah. I'll be there at the Sports Center, and we're trying to get as many of our reporters over there to get this type of information out to your listeners and our readers and our listeners. And also we want to let people know, too, that we have quite a few individuals who are running for offices, and we got a call recently, and I'm trying to look into it, that actually some of the other candidates who are not Native are saying that the Native vote in Arizona is the swing vote.
That's true. That's what we're hearing. We want to keep in touch with you. Good talking with you. Marley, where can people go for the latest Navajo news?
They can go to www.navajotimes.com.
Thanks for joining with us.
Thank you. Go Annette.
And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country. On this edition of the Native News Update, we want to thank you all for joining with us. Come back again sooner.